about yourself, what motivated you to run, or in your case, rerun for Gilbert Town Council, and what experience you bring to this role.
Cool. Okay. Well, I am a um, father of four, two dogs, two sharks. Let me see. I got a master's in psychology, a master's in social work, and an MBA. I started a very small company in Gilbert about 33 years ago. It was in the senior advisory realm. Built that eventually to 240 offices in the US and Canada, and sold a majority of that to private equity in 2018. Started a new franchise system. I franchise residential care homes now. We're in 9 states plus the Dominican Republic also. So I've been in business my whole life. Even my master's degree was, believe it or not, it was business focused. It was a special program. Um, Let me see. I ran 4 years ago because I wanted to. Um, I sold my first company. I had a little extra time, and I wanted to, use my leadership skills for something good. And this time, why I want to run again, we've done in the last 4 years have been tough. I mean, they've been very difficult between teen violence and the water issue and several things in between there. And I think that we have a very good team together right now, unlike our first 2 years when I was on council. And I want to finish the job that we all started. And that's really important to me because I know that there's some very, very difficult decisions that are going to have to be made over the next 2 years with our finances. And I have a really good stronghold of what's been going on the last 4 years and, a good strategy for the future.
An excellent answer, and you a perfect transition into our very first question here. Um, and just so FYI, we'll be rotating, so you get me for a couple of questions, but my
Okay.
cohorts are going to jump into.
Okay.
When it comes to economic development and the business environment, what new or existing initiatives would you support to encourage businesses to start, grow, and stay in Gilbert?
Okay. I think, with the financial cliff that we're approaching, I think the answer is economic development. It has to be, you know. We have to take a look at every, rezone that we have and take a look at, is that really best use? Can we get more commercial in there? Can we get more mixed development in there? What can we do to support new businesses, bring in new business? I'd love to bring in a couple of headquarters here and there with some of the property that is left in Gilbert. But I really think the only way out of our financial cliff that we're going to hit is economic development. And unfortunately, we didn't hit it as hard the last couple of years that I think we should have. But I think that now it's all focused on business as far as I look at it.
And how would you address any regulatory hurdles or permitting challenges that might come up in that?
Well, first of all, I would definitely, vote for the easiest path for businesses. Unfortunately, sometimes with, our state reps, we really can't dictate that. But I would like to see us actually hire more people in our planning department so we can get permits quicker. I mean, I'm seeing right now permits are being is a problem, and the quicker a business can get into business, the better it is for them, and the better it is for the community.
Certainly, you're not paying rent for all those months and your
I
doors haven't even
know.
opened.
I know this is federal, but takes 39 years to get a mining permit. I mean, it's just crazy.
Okay, Dan, you're up, I think.
You're on mute, Dan.
You got one more, Jasmine. The town council is yours.
Oh, oh, sorry. We had that was such a thorough answer. I didn't even realize we did do question two. My apologies. Okay, question two. The town council has recently approved significant increases to utility rates. How do you balance infrastructure needs with the financial impact on residents and businesses?
Wow. This is a tough question because you don't want to lay blame on other past councils. for not raising the rates. You can't blame Mother Nature for doing what Mother Nature does and having pipes deteriorate. We looked at everything. It was probably the hardest decision up there. We looked at every possible situation that we could have. We did end up bonding the water treatment plant. Um, but I think where we probably could have done a better job is communicating it more with the residents about why we had to raise the rates and what to look for in the future. And yes, it was 25% the first year, but guys, it's going to be 50% next year. And let's start conserving water now. What happened was until the very end, that's when conserving water became important because residents finally realized now my bill is really, really high. So I think where we could have done a better job is preparing them for the 3 years afterwards. But I also know that we're building a water future, for Gilbert, and other cities are going to be doing the same thing, and we just were progressive and decided to do it first, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it. But I look at there was a dinner with Terry Goddard. He's in charge of the water. I don't know the abbreviation of the thing he's with, but he praised us. He said that we had the guts to move forward in doing something that wasn't popular, but I can't drink popularity and I can't shower in popularity, but sometimes you have to govern and not really um, get swayed by public opinion. Sometimes you just have to do the best thing for the community.
Thank you, Chuck. I'll have the next couple questions. As Gilbert approaches build out, what type of businesses or industries should the town actively prioritize or perhaps not prioritize? And why?
Um, you know, the closer we come to build out, the closer I get to our roots, believe it or not. I would love to see some agribusiness, as I call it, things happen. Whether it be trying to get some businesses that are agribusiness focused, but to bring us back to our roots a little bit. I also want to make sure that if we can bring in a big player, that we have the appropriate housing for them. But overall, I can't think of an industry per se, except I will fight to never have a data center here. But overall, I think we're just looking for businesses to thrive here.
Maybe building on that, what role do you think redevelopment should play in Gilbert's future? And along with that, what outcomes would you hope to see from that effort?
Yeah, I think we have to be careful about that and really be thinking outside the box. It's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, but I would have loved to see, and I know it's too late now, but of course, but I would have loved to see, if Santan Mall had two or three levels of apartments on top of all of them. I mean, what a great community that would have been. So, as I look at redevelopment, I'm looking more at mixed use possibly as much as possible, but the mixed use like we have developed it and plan on developing it, not the versions that the developers have been giving to us lately. But I just think we need to start thinking outside the box. We've been so used to doing things the same way, right? Instead of thinking a little differently and taking some risk.
Thank you. Next question. With the transition in town leadership, including the recent departure of town manager, how will you help ensure stability and effective governance during this period?
Don's been doing a really good job of keeping all the wheels on the train right now, or the bus, shall we say. Um, anytime that there's change, there's always going to be change, right? So, people may be looking for other jobs. We just have to focus on having the right people in the right seats and getting and trying to recruit the best people possible. Moving some things around again, thinking outside of the box. Making chief, assistant manager. I think it's a great idea. I mean, he's going to oversee police and fire. So I think we really need to start taking a look at who's in what seat, and it's very important that we hire the right town manager. Um, to be very honest with you, you know, our next town manager may not be a 14-year person. It may be a 2-year person. It might be a 3-year person, you know. But I think we have to find the person that has the economic development background that's important, because that's where we're at right now. We really need, none of us want to do a primary property tax. And I really believe if we get the right projects here, that we can deter that or make that not happen at all.
Well, thank you, man. And this, to that point, Gilbert has a large and growing municipal budget, right? How will
Mhm.
you approach budgeting and prioritization to ensure res responsible spending while supporting essential services and economic growth?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing in the last 3 years, is seeing how much that we really needed and couldn't budget for. I think this year we're like 200 employees short of what is needed. Of course, there's always, you know, public safety is very, very important, and infrastructure, of course, is very important. Um, I think that I believe council should be a little bit more involved in that budgeting process. You know, staff for many years have had the way that they've been doing it. I would like to see us, you know, the next 4 years getting a little bit more involved in some of that decision making and what we feel that is important, what needs to be cut, what doesn't need to be cut, what needs to increase. You know, basically they do a great job putting the budget together, and then they give it to us to take a look at and say, okay, yes or no. You know, that's my first year on the council. I voted no against the budget because we had no input at all. So we got a little bit more input. You know, I was able to fight for a lot of the drones for this in my second year for public safety, but infrastructure, public safety, and as much as we can as far as business development.
Okay.
I like we like this year. I'm sorry. This year, I know in our financial retreat, we pretty much demanded 3 more employees for economic development. I'm glad to see we got those.
A lot of change in that department too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I will say, okay, turning gears a little bit, what responsibility do elected officials have in setting the tone for respectful discourse, and how do you model that in your interactions?
Yeah, I think that's been shown. You know, this year. You know, our first 2 years, it was difficult. We had a mayor that just did not want to play fairly with all of us, and it didn't come out too well for us or for the town. I think we have a great team. We're very respectful. I think that, um, you know, some of the council members, our votes are never right. But you know what? At the end of the day, we're always here to work, you know, work for what's best for Gilbert. Where there's no personality kind of problems between us that would stop us from working on something for the residents. So I am concerned about that. You know, as you go into a new election, you want to make sure that the people that you'll be serving with are people that you can work with. That's really, really important. And I think we have that team together right now.
Well, if reelected, what does a strong, effective partnership with the chamber look like in practice, and how would you engage with the business community?
Yeah, you know, I think I've always wanted to, uh, you know, rather than you guys give us great, you know, letters of approval, yes or no, but it'd be great to meet with you guys on a basis. I mean, you know, when a project comes up, you know, get about 3 or 4 or 5 stakeholders from the chamber and let's talk it out. And I think, you know, I've also recommended that with the residents. You know, instead of coming up to the council for 3 minutes and, you know, making this a them versus us. Why don't we, you know, we meet with developers all the time, right? So why not? I would love to see residents and businesses get together and say, "Hey, Chuck, you know, the four of us want to go out for coffee. Let's go talk and let's talk about this issue." So therefore, it isn't a them versus us for those 3 minutes, because those 3 minutes are tough. They really are, because you know your heart reaches out to these people, but it's like, could you have just called me last week and gone over some of these issues? So they're just not coming up right now. So I want to see a lot more communication, you know, with the chamber and with the resident groups also.